Are you ready to be inspired and encouraged? We welcome you to a Victorious Spotlight, hosted by Pastor Tony Smith and Victorious Ministries International. Join in as we dive into real-life conversations of triumph and victory and discover how God is working through everyday people like you and me. Don't miss out on this uplifting and faith-filled show. So grab your loved ones and tune in as we experience the power of God's love in action. Let's get into the broadcast.
Hey, I'm Pastor Marcus, and welcome to a Spotlight of Victory. Today, Pastor Tony Smith and Victorious Ministries will be spotlighting portions of our married and engaged directors who will be sharing about marriage. So if you are engaged or married, make sure you tune in and feel free to share, like, and comment so that those who you know will be able to benefit from what's being shared. We're going to jump right into the broadcast now with our married and engaged directors.
We a little different. We both stubborn, and you dealing with two stubborn people, so we'll let stuff linger and be mad or whatever, and then we get to the point where all right, what is this really about? Well, why are we mad? And then she'll tell me. We had a situation recently, so that we were mad about, and we just came after a weekend, maybe a couple days, and we weren't really talking. I come in the house, I just go upstairs, she be in the office, do it again the next day. Like, I was at work, I'm like, man, why are we, like, because I really wasn't mad, right? I really wasn't mad, but she was really upset over, something. So we had a long talk, and we discussed it, and we're still dealing with it, but we're trying to do things smart and faster without blowing up in each other's faces, say something that we really don't mean, right. And then that'd be another situation, so how do you get beyond that? I know y'all been married forever, so.
But I think this is the thing I think we all have to realize. Now, number one, it's good because we all gonna deal with it different. We all gonna communicate different, but we gotta communicate. But we have to figure out how we communicate. So how do you, like you kept saying it's effective, or when you listen, like you figured that out by trial and error. Everybody has to figure out how they communicate. But I never think space is good. I think that every couple needs to understand that when you're divided, the enemy can plant himself in there so quickly. Like, it would be something so subtle as somebody saying, Melvin, you're being nice. You at work, and somebody, and you like, thank you, whatever. Like, don't even realize, but the separation from your wife, and I'm not saying this to you, Melvin, I'm just using an example. Like, the separation from your wife, and some of these examples probably have happened to us. Like, you can, but one thing about us, we normally even if we're mad, we're normally quick to come back, because I look at it as, I didn't always look at it like this, but I look at it as team, right? When you're on the team and somebody's messing up, you don't push them out of the team. Like, you come together to win the game. So if it's just like when we mess up with God, we rather stay home than come to the church house. But we need to come here. We need to fall at the altar. We need to speak to God and not stay away from him, because while we're away, our mind, that's the devil's workshop. Everything that we can think, like, especially for a woman, we could conjure up a whole story, a whole, you ain't talking, like, and why you not, because our minds, that idle mind is not good at all. So I think that if you think about it, like, always as a team player, then, and how, even when somebody, that weakest link, how do we get the weakest link back in the fold to help win the game? Then we'll stop being so separate. We'll stop having so much time away. And I always think this, because I have a true story that this happened to a lady that I know, that her and her husband wasn't speaking. The husband was in the room. She thought he was asleep, but he was dead, y'all. He was dead. And she told me, don't ever do that. But that's the word. Don't go to sleep. Yep. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. That's the word. So I always think like that. Like, I don't try to scare people, but I'm like, this lady have a real life story of, and left him in there for a few hours because I thought he was just asleep. We slept in different rooms. And when somebody went in there to see, he was dead. You never get to say sorry. You never get to make that up. So is it worth it? You know, to anybody, is it worth it? And not saying that we're going to do things perfect, y'all, but sometimes we got to sit down and talk to our own self and say, now, wait a minute. I know I'm stubborn. I know whatever. I know he going to come in here cracking a joke, and I'm going to be like, Marcus, please. Like, oh, there's no time for joking. But in the end, some things in our spouses we have to be grateful for because it breaks up. It breaks up the tension. It breaks up the hurt, the pain. And even if they don't know how to totally fix it, sometimes we have to just keep moving forward, praying to God in hopes that we can get it better. But I really think that all of us like have to keep that team mindset, because your team members don't want to hurt you. Your team members want to win. And if you're a team and you don't want to win, then you married the wrong person. Like,
That's good,
you know?
Sheree. That's good.
And I think, too, you got to realize that whenever you are communicating, one of our challenges as a human being is we are trained to listen to respond instead of listen to learn. So if we listen to learn, then I'll actually understand why you're upset and where your point of view is coming from, even if I disagree. So one of the things that we had to learn to do is, even if I disagree, I need to hear you, because I need to understand the position that you're in, because how can I help you change that position or perspective that you have if I don't understand where you are? The fact that you don't agree with me is different, because we can still want the same destination and go two different routes to get there. We could say we going to Security Mall from the church. You want to take the city, I want to take the Beltway. We still want to get to the same destination, but how we're going to get there is what the argument could be about. So it's just about us deciding, are we going to cross that bridge or are we not? So, you know, when you realize that in that communication, you figure out, all right, number one, this is the thing. This is where our human nature fails us consistently. Because it was not my intent does not mean that it was not your reality. I did not intend to offend her in our conversation. She took offense to something that I said. I can't say that what I said wasn't offensive, because I didn't mean to offend her. I have to accept the fact that what I said offended her, even though that's not what I meant. And when I can acknowledge that, oh, I didn't mean that, and am able to own the fact that I didn't mean it, then hopefully we're able to move past that faster than me dismissing her feelings, because that wasn't what my intent was. So you can't say I offended you. You can't say that I disrespected you. You can't say, I can't tell you how to feel. So whatever feeling you feel, I have to make that feeling valid, even if I disagree with the premises that it's on. And then I can hopefully be able to articulate why or what I was thinking or how we got to that. But I have to hear what you're saying so that we can then figure out where to go from there.
I just wanted to interject this one thing. Another way that is probably the most important way, not probably, it is, but another way that we resolve things and, you know, resolve conflict is prayer. We pray. Now, when we were having a disagreement and he came to me and said, come on, let's pray, I was like, boy, bye. I said, no. You know, and then, yeah, you said I took off. Yeah. You know, and then I said, wait a minute. I'm like, you know, I might not even feel like saying nothing right now. You're talking about praying. But we actually came together and prayed. And it was really wonderful. And we sought answers and everything from God. You know, I mean, we had a nice night. That's, yeah.
PG-13.
No, I was just saying the prayer brought us closer together. Yeah, it was good.
Right.
That's all great ideas, and I think we learning something today. But and just to share with, you know, in the real world, like people who let time slip through, and then the enemy, you say, can come in. So what y'all were mad at, now the enemy done threw all this other stuff that happened like months and months. So now you real mad, but you was only mad. So it's best to just nip it in the bud right then and there, add some prayer to it, and just stay consistent. Like Like even when you plan things like you say, this week we're gonna have a date night. Like every Monday's gonna be date night, and then we're gonna pray before we leave the house. We're gonna make sure we address each other before we leave the house. We just gotta stay consistent with those things. Like we can't get tired and lazy because, I don't know, we just gotta stay consistent. I think being consistent in those things that you plan to do to build and help your relationship, I think that will help.
I think that's extremely important. Being consistent is a struggle, and this is what I try to, remind myself, and I always tell people this as well. Like, we have to extend grace. And the reason that we have to extend grace is because we know that we need it. Like, so, you mentioned about consistency, but one of my things that I've always said is I will never expect from her more than what she gives to God. Because God has been better to her, he's been more consistent to her, and he has been, he's been God while I've been Marcus, and we are not the same. So, like, if she is going to give me more than what she gives God, that's concerning. To know that someone who has been consistent, who has been considerate, who has done no wrong, and you can give more to me than you give to him, that's going to be concerning. But outside of that, understanding that grace needs to be given, because even if I feel like what she says or what she did could have been harsh or it could have been done a different way or whatever the case, the reason that I always try to extend grace is because I'm not positive what she's experienced and encountered in this day, that she couldn't give that to who it really belonged to, and it ended up spilling over and she bled on me. And so if I respond and get into fight mode and start reacting off of things that have been said or done, when in essence, she really just needed some healing. But because of what happened elsewhere, and because real talk, some people, things will happen at work and you really want to go off at work, but you can't go off at work because you need your job. So you don't go off at work, and then you come home and then somebody say something at home, and then you just let everything from work out as if the question you asked was that big of a question. It wasn't. It was just my pent up frustration that I couldn't give to where it belonged, that you got it. And so if we could extend grace, then we would be able to see that what just happened didn't warrant that response. What I said or what I did didn't warrant that type of reaction. So I'm extending grace because I really need to see my spouse is going through something, and I need to be able to identify that something is happening and how can I help.
That's true. He's even said to me sometimes, oh, baby, you just upset because A, B, and C. And then I sit and say, you know what? You're right. I was upset because of this, because of that. I'm sorry. So you do acknowledge that. You do say that, and you're very observant.
Praise God. Thank you so much.
Are you tearing up?
A little bit. No, I'm all right, though. Because I was sitting there listening to Pastor Marcus, and I was thinking about you, and I was just like, wow. I'm grateful. You came a long way. I'm so thankful.
Been with you?
No. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm listening, like how Snapdragon used to come out, and you don't have a Snapdragon. You just,
Praise God. Yes.
It's wonderful. I'm just grateful for you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's what I was gonna say. It's how you address things too, because I was like, I'm gonna address it now, but how I'm gonna address it is gonna give you I'm on 1,000. I'm on 1,000 addressing it. Like when I say I'm gonna address it, I'm gonna address it. I don't care how Marcus feel. I don't care what he about to say, or whatever. But as long as I get these words out of my mouth, but I had to start being like, yeah, Cherie, you can still address it. But how you doing all of this antics and being all emotional? You need to let that die.
That's important, how you come across to the person, because if you don't come across right, they're not going to accept it, because they're not going to hear it, because you yelling and you doing all this other stuff. No, just talk to me. Don't talk at me. Talk to me. I hate when somebody talk at me. That pisses me off. So I'm not hearing nothing you saying. I'm all right. I'm going downstairs or whatever. Not just talking about you, babe, but you know what I'm saying. And that's anybody. So it's important.
But that is because, like, packaging is very important. You're not going to go in a store and buy something that is packaged wrong. you will move that one to try to find one that's packaged better. If you saw something and it looked like it was dirty, or you went in a restaurant and they brought you silverware that was dirty, could have been clean, but just somebody didn't dry it off after the water dried, or whatever the case. I don't want this anymore. I don't care that you want to try to clean it up now. Give me something completely different, because I don't want it. So packaging is everything, because whatever you're saying, just like she was saying, like, all right, I want to deal with it. That's cool. We can deal with it. But how you deal with it is going to determine if I hear what you're saying or I hear how you're saying it, because then we're going to get off topic. We're no longer going to be discussing what the real issue is. We're going to be discussing, who do you think you're talking to? Right? And so now we got to address that, because now I need to straighten out this child that you think you see that is not present. So now we done gone off topic and we're somewhere else, and that's all because of the presentation. And again, it goes back to what you were saying, that we got to remember that we're on the same team. So if we're on the same team, I know that she never wants to hurt me. I also know that when you're hurt, you can respond out of hurt, and so I can't take her reaction as an action. Because if I hurt her, I have to own that what I did caused this reaction, and can't treat it like, oh, you just doing this for nothing, out the blue. That matters too.
You know, I'm gonna say this, when you said about 1,000. So this was prior to us being married. And I was calling his phone, and you was going somewhere. He was going to the park or something, getting his little his little piece or whatever, and he was praying. So he answered the phone, but when he answered the phone, he put a sermon on. So I'm on the phone, I said, what? Steady fussing. Then I said, wait a minute, this ain't him. Was it the pastor?
Yes.
It was the pastor. And I heard him, praise God, and this and that. I said, oh, goodness, this ain't even him. I was on that phone for like 30 minutes, and I still was going on, you hear me? And I did not know he had put the actual, phone up with the sermon on, to the phone. And I still was, that's how, like you said, 1,000, I probably was on 2,000, because I did not hear. And I was like, who was that in the background? Who was this? Who was that? I never heard him. All I heard was the pastor. Then I said, wait a minute, I recognize that voice. And I hung up.
Hold up.
Wow.
I got to jump in on that one, because that's what I was thinking about.
What?
Just a few minutes ago, you said to me, you said, oh, you tearing up. And I was listening to Pastor Marks and say, I'm so grateful for how far you. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that. Yeah, she called me. And we was going through something. I was like, man, I'm out of here. I left out the house, and I had the pass CD on. I turned it up, and I was just chilling. I'm sitting in the car just listening, and he was gone. He was like, and the devil dropped down, and and she called. The devil dropped down, and she called. So, and then she said, well, what girl? And what baby? And I put that phone down. I'm like, listen to that. And she was still going. And she hung up, and she called back. She was like, "You listen to church?" I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "You know what? I got to really apologize to you. Thank you, Pastor Tony Smith. You saved that relationship that day."
I got a question. So, as a married couple, how do you manage time management as far as your time with each other, work, everything else in life that goes on?
Prioritize. You have to see your priorities. So, and you have to find that balance. I think you have to see how that, for me, like I said, you have to find the balance. That was a question that we had one time before also on the show. How do you multitask? I prioritize, like, okay, this day, okay, if it requires me for ministry this day. Ministry is always, and I'm glad I have a husband like that, because he accepts. Some people say, well, this is our time, but he always know, and vice versa him too. Ministry is first, because God is first. So for this day, if we say, okay, well, this has to be done with this has to be done, this has to be done, and then it's 24 hours in a day, and we only have that hour is our time now. And then if it requires us to do something else, we interject those. So you have to know how to work things in, work things out, and find like a level, common ground and balance for that. That's what we do.
um, that used to be a struggle for me with my time management. You know, um, I would get up extra early to do the things that I need to do. I would do my studying, and because I would be studying all day long, and that would have been the issue. You know, she'd be like, you need to learn how to take a break. You know, with me, it ain't no take no breaks. Ain't no break. So I said, okay, I gotta do some redirecting. So I would wake up early before her. I would go do what I need to do, my studying, do whatever else I need to do for me, for my personal time, because I know when she opened up her eyes, my time belongs to her. And that's how that went. But, you know, she would give me a break, you know, because she has stuff she got to do. And, but that's what it is, you know, I'm her husband, you know, so, and whatever's affecting her has affected me. So we were in it together. Now, we also had to learn to incorporate us going out and spending some quality time with each other versus just everything being about business, you know, work, you know, ministry, parenting, you know. So we know how to cut some stuff off. Say, listen, you know, we gotta do us, you know what I mean. So this is our time right now, you know. So I'm sorry, family. Y'all gotta take a chill.
Boundaries.
Bam,
Yeah,
that's
you have
it.
to set those. You
That's
have to
it.
set them.
We probably have had extremely hectic schedules since we met, literally. And so that's one of the things that I would think was possibly a red flag for her. I have been a busy person my entire life. Childhood busy up until, like, that's just what I've known, and that's what is normal to me. Where I had to grow in that was I had to learn balance. And in learning balance, because balance has become a church word that people like to say all the time. You know, you gotta have balance, this and other, but balance is created by boundaries. And so I had to create some boundaries, and I had to set some times and do all of that. But another area that I had to grow in, because I was failing in it originally, was I made my family, I made my wife respect things that I didn't make respect my wife or my family. So she would know, okay, well, you know, I was a musician, so I had this rehearsal, I had this gig, I had this service, I had this, so you know I got this stuff, so I made you respect those things, but I also didn't make those things respect us or her or my family at large. And so I had to learn and grow in that area, because when it's all said and done, people are going to respect what you respect. And there were points in times where I was making a bad name and bad reputation for things and people that was my fault, not theirs, but it was affecting the way that she was able to see them, because I never made them aware that this could or should be my time, our time. And so with me not setting those boundaries and making it known that this day is my date day, you know, we always dated, and we've always had a date day. But if something came up and something was happening, I would just take that something coming up, you know, whether it was money based or it was commitment based to ministry something or whatever, and never have a conversation about the change, or never have a conversation with them that this is what's going on, and is this that important that I need to have the conversation. So setting those boundaries and creating that type of environment where I started to make other things and other people respect my family and my relationship the way I made my family and relationship respect other things, allowed that, you know, management to be a little better.
And I think we're going to date every week, so we always like set aside a time. But when it gets tight, sometimes it gets tight because we got work, we got different schedules. He works when he opens his eyes till he go to sleep. So then we got school, then we got children, then we got other things, other people that count on us. But we always take a time. Like, it could be 9 o'clock in the morning. Like, we do something, we call it riding out. Like, you want to ride out, we just go. We might get on a street, we might get on York Road and just drive, right? And just whatever. Oh, you want to stop there, but just to set that time aside, right? Because no relationship is going to be able to flourish without putting time in it or spending time together, because you always changing. And so, and I don't, you know, like, you want to have time that you can talk to each other without everybody. Now, we still answer our phones. That's something that we got to get better at doing. We still answer our phones. We still text, whatever. But you just taking that time away, that our church starts respecting it. People, you know, your job starts respecting it. Your kids respect it. All that, I think that helps us. But we always like say that this is going to be the time. But we also, whatever we have to do, even if we have to go on a trip for our children, we make time in that trip that's going to be for us. That's why I can't kind of be like the mom that has all the kids in the room when we go like basketball tournaments or something like that, because we're going to make that time somewhere in that trip. We're going to make it for ourselves. So I think it's just always trying to steal away whatever time you can, and not changing it, being consistent with saying, if I said I was going to do this, I might be tired, but we still going to ride out, or we still going to, you know, go out to eat, whatever it is. It might be 11 o'clock at night, but we still going to go out to eat and come back at 1 o'clock and got to get up at 5 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? But we need to spend that time, so.
And I was going to say, you don't want your marriage, that's another thing that's really important. You don't want the things that you do in your life to be so repetitive. I know marriages that have slipped away because they were so structured, working, and never allowed themselves to have quality time. They just worked. When they came in, you know, it was a relative of mine. She would sleep at a certain time. The husband was here at a certain time. And come to find out, he was having an affair because the things that he was interested in, she was never able to do because she was asleep because the type of job she had. So they just actually slipped away, and before he passed away, but before he passed away, he actually told her, you know, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. She thought, well, I worked, I was a good woman, I you know, raised your child, I cooked, but all the things that he liked, he wanted to go to the movies, he might have wanted this, might have wanted that. Those things were never fulfilled.
And I think stuff like that, like, I don't think nothing is a reason to cheat, but because you got self-control and you got to control yourself. But I think that stuff like job schedules, different things like that, you got to talk about with your spouse. Like, I worked overnight for a little while, but we always talk about that. He like, yeah, you ain't never working overnight again. But you got to talk about it with your spouse, because what you think is good here might not be good in your house. You know, so every time your schedule changes or something, you need to talk about that with each other.
Or before it even started, when I used to like get a certain schedule, okay, this is the schedule they offer me this time, and he might say, no, that time too late, it's too dangerous, this or that, this or whatever. But then I say, wait a minute, the money good. Come on now, work with me.
Listen, we could talk about marriage all day long because we're married and we love marriage and we love relationship. But if there was one word that you could say that you could leave with a couple that is either thinking about marriage or is married now, that you think will allow their relationship to stay connected or to stay strong, what would that one word be?
Listen.
Consistency.
Date.
Respect.
Honor.
Forgive. And so these are all things that if we can implement them in our relationships, we will have a better success rate. And ultimately, none of this is going to work well without God, because marriage is a spiritual covenant and it's an institution that you go into that God has to be in the middle of. So if you are considering marriage or you are married, make sure that you don't take God out of your relationship, because your relationship won't last. So it is important for all of us that we would, one, realize that love is not enough. And so it requires other tools that we need to use to make sure that our relationship can last and flourish. But in the meanwhile, within your relationship, Make sure you use those things so everything that you're supposed to become and do will be able to happen. This has been a Victorious Spotlight from the Married and Engaged Directors. We are some of the Married and Engaged Directors, and we appreciate you tuning in to be with us, and we will see you next time. Come and visit us every Sunday at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., 4617 York Road.